Hey guys, I want to talk to you about the one thing that is standing in the way of your worship with your congregation. Any guesses at what that might be? Well, of course, you know what it is because, well, it's in the title, right? The music stand. What can we do about the music stand? How is it intruding in your worship? And what can we do to, well, get rid of it? Well, that's the key, right? Getting rid of it. We're going to talk about that in today's episode. So music stands, they're a hot topic of conversation amongst worship leaders and worship teams, and they should be. Because while they're an effective tool for you to be learning your music, they're not the best idea for you to be connecting with your worship teams and your congregation, most importantly. And that's probably the number one reason why we need to be talking about this in the first place. Let me skip to the chase. Music stands are the biggest thing that is standing in the way of you connecting with your congregation. Let me tell you, there's nothing worse when I review people that have sent in their worship teams and said, hey, can you give me some constructive criticism and feedback about our worship teams, than looking at people that are standing like this in front of music stands and there's no connection. One of the biggest things that we're supposed to be doing as worship leaders and worship teams is removing distractions from our worship. And when there are worship stands in front of our faces, there's no connection that's able to happen. One of the things that I'm constantly telling the worship leaders that are on the stage, and when I say worship leaders and lead worshipers, I mean every single person that is on your team is a lead worshiper, whether it's an electric guitarist, it's a bassist, it's a drummer, if it's a background vocalist, if it's a lead vocalist, if it's your front of house person, every single person, they're a lead vocalist, or they're a lead worshiper rather. They need to be finding a person that they're able to connect with. Somebody that is there close to the stage or far away from the stage, whether it's stage left, stage right, center stage, wherever. They're connecting with somebody. Now, yes, I get that the worship leader, most people are fixated on, or they're looking at that person who is the primary worship leader of a song, or the person that is primarily singing the song. But somebody, if your lead guitarist is sitting over here to this side of the stage, somebody that is on this side of the stage is focused on them. They're connecting with them. It may be that somebody that's really thinking, I've just picked up a guitar for Christmas and I'm learning guitar. They're looking at them because they're looking at those licks that he's playing or she's playing and going, I really want to learn how to nail that. I want to emulate that. And we can say all day long, well, you're not supposed to be focused on that. You're focused on God. Well, you can see God in those things. God can work through those things. So the point isn't that. The point is that you want to be connecting with people, making connections in those ways. And it simply doesn't happen if there's a music stand in front of you. Your connection is based here. It's not based here. You're not making those types of connections. So what do we do to get rid of music stands? Perhaps you say, I get it, I've heard it, I know that I need to get rid of music stands. How do I do it? Well, first off, make sure that you're being prepared. Well, it sounds easy enough, but do we really do it? I've heard plenty of people that talk about coming to rehearsals on Thursday night and the music's not prepared. Well, here's the thing. Rehearsals on Thursdays, or rehearsals whenever you do it, they're to rehearse. They're not to practice. So that's a key point, right? Let's make sure that when we come to rehearsals, we're there to rehearse. We've already done the practicing before. Now, part of that relies on you, if you're the worship pastor or the worship leader or the music director in charge of getting out music, that we're making sure that our people are getting their stuff in an appropriate amount of time. That we're not waiting until the last minute to where they can practice, right? So make sure that we're getting our people their stuff in enough time that they can be properly equipped to practice. So the practice is done at home. You get to rehearsal if it's on a Thursday night, and you're able to rehearse. Now, personally, I don't mind being able to rehearse on a Thursday night with stands. In fact, here we do rehearsals on Thursday, and then we do a practice rehearsal on Sunday morning, and then a full run through to where we go through every single bit of it on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock before we do our first gatherings. The rule that I have is this: I want you to not use your stands during a run through. That way you can focus on everything else. So up until the point where run through happens, you can use a stand. But I want you to be focused during a run through and during our gatherings on connecting. So again, how do we get rid of stands? Well, first off, make sure that you're equipping your people to where they can practice at home, to where you can worry about sheet music and worry about things like that. How is the song structured? That's another key thing. Make sure that you're perfectly planning out how you're going to flow that song to where there's no question about it. Wait, hey, do I go to the bridge here? Do I go to the chorus? Is it bridge, bridge, chorus, chorus, chorus? Is it chorus, chorus, bridge, bridge, bridge? Is it bridge, 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 chorus, chorus? Where do I go on the song? Make sure we know how we're plotting out the songs in the first place. So from then, what else can we do? Here's a trick that I've used at several different churches that works. Take a song that you've not done. Sometimes I'll get on the stage, and I've used before the song, set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain. So I'll take that song and I'll simply start playing it. And I'll say, guys, here's a song. I'm in the key of B. And I'll just start playing. And I'll say, fill in where you feel it. And those are the only words that I'll say. And I'll start playing just the riff over and over, the chord progression. And as they start feeling it, you'll feel an atmosphere in the room where all of a sudden maybe a key player starts padding in a little bit. Maybe a guitar player starts swelling in a little bit. And then you start singing, set a fire down in my soul that I can't contain. Next thing you know, maybe a background vocalist is singing in with you. And then you naturally start building that up. And then letting it have some great climaxes, and then an instrumental portion, and then bringing it back down. And once you're done, what I've done with teams is to say, you just played an entire song, and yet you didn't have a chart. You didn't have any words. In fact, you didn't even know what chords to play. So what happened? I'll let them give their reasons of what they think happened, and a lot of times you'll hear a couple of different things. Well, the Holy Spirit moved. That's usually one of the main things that we'll hear. And one of the things that you'll also hear is that, well, we're able to use our talents. Those are really the two things that I'm looking for. The Holy Spirit moved and we're able to use our talents. And one of the questions that I'll ask of a team that I work with is this. Well, in reality, could we have gone out on the street and brought anybody in off the street and given them the instruments to hold in their hand, and the Holy Spirit would have been able to move them to play the same thing? The instant gut reaction is to say, well, no, because there's not the skill. The truth of the matter is that, of course, God can make anything happen. I mean, if God can make a donkey speak, then of course God can make anybody be able to play instruments. But the thing that we want people to be able to realize and remember is that God has uniquely given them talents. And sometimes we weigh so heavily on a music stand that we forget about those talents, and we rely too much on what we're seeing on paper. The same thing can be said these days of what we utilize a GPS for. You know, most of us could probably get from point A to point B if we just trusted our instincts, but we don't. We rely too much on what Siri says or what our Google phones tell us to do. We need to trust our instincts more and more to be able to play. So here's the other side of that. I'll take that same example that we used, that same song that we had just played, and I'll give them this type of scenario. I'll say, you know, sometimes we get so stuck in music and looking at something that is so structured, and this will happen. If I, as a worship leader, decide that we're going to move in something, or the Holy Spirit says we need to stay here and dwell in this moment, or maybe there's a moment of Salah, or maybe there's a moment of of prophetic worship where I feel the need to just sing this for a moment, or go over here and just sit in this moment for a little bit, then what happens if we're stuck here is that we're looking, wait a minute, where's he going over here? Perhaps we're singing "This is Amazing Grace," and next thing you know, I'm instead of singing "This is Amazing Grace," I'm singing something else where I'm going, I love the King and the King loves me, and we're looking at this not anywhere on this chord chart. Where's he at? And instead of just going with it and going, oh, I feel like he's going from an A to a D here, and okay, maybe he's going to the minor here, then all of a sudden we're fixated on, I just don't see where he's going here. Instead, we need to start feeling where we're going. Getting rid of the stands frees you to be able to do that. Try it sometimes. Do it on a Thursday night rehearsal, or whenever you do rehearsals. Take a song and just decide that you're just going to play and let your worship team gather around that song and trust themselves for the very first time. I did it this past week with a new team, and had them say, one person that said, hey, I'm going to trust myself for the very first time to not use a music stand. And I asked him after he made that decision for the very first time, 2 gatherings in a row, how did it feel? He said, I know that I missed a couple of notes here and there, but I didn't feel awkward with it. It felt great. Your team will feel great too. And I can promise you this, you'll grow closer to your congregation, and you'll be able to dive deeper into worship because you don't have a barrier there. Don't let anything stand between you and your worship, including stands. I love you guys. I hope that you've been encouraged by this. I hope you've been able to grow from this. And I also hope that you'll get some very valuable information in other areas too as well that you and your team will be able to grow from. Make sure to hit like, make sure to hit subscribe, and we'll see you back soon.